So actually, Norman Pressman and some other researchers did ask these same questions, okay, that same question of people in as many locations as they could, and I have a few of these graphs here, which shows the percentage. The bottom number is the, hate, endure, and up to celebrate, number 6. Interesting, in Ontario, you can see that people really don't appreciate winter all that much. In Quebec, perhaps we have a few more people that do celebrate it. But what's interesting is if we look at children, we find a high tolerance for winter. In fact, kids generally love the winter time. But something happens to children when they get to be teenagers or preteens. And I've really wondered what this is all about. And I think it's a cultural thing that, as children become older, they are certainly more influenced by the media and so forth. And let's face it, today's California-driven media really says that warm is good, cold is bad. I think it's also a matter of fashion. That as children become older, what they're wearing becomes really the most important thing to them, because it's how others perceive them. And so when it's covered up with a parka or they're wearing a toque, they're not in step with fashion. Just a few more of these little graphs showing, again, children in Sapporo celebrate winter. But as they get older, they do not. What happens? But I also love these informal polls. I've collected a few of those. This one is from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Again, you can just kind of get a feel for how the people there feel about wintertime, at least those that responded to the poll. And I really like this one. This was Houghton, Michigan. And again, they said they don't care how much it snows as long as they can get around. They're fine with it. I had the opportunity to work in Marquette, Michigan, again, another Lake Superior coastline community across from Thunder Bay, to give you a little idea where that's located. Very snowy place. But a rare example of a community that addressed winter in its master plan. And also some of this information is included in your packet as well. But we did a community survey as part of the master plan effort, and we had a few questions that we decided to ask about wintertime, along with a lot of other things. But we asked, what do you do indoors or outdoors in winter? Is winter really a positive or negative attribute, and why? And it was pretty interesting. It kind of surprised us what people did in Marquette. We had a lot of downhill skiing there because there was a pretty decent ski area right in the city limits. But what surprised us was the number of people that were walking or running in the wintertime as opposed to cross-country skiing, perhaps. And 80% felt that winter was a very positive attribute to Marquette, Michigan, and that just kind of floored us, because that's not what you hear in the line at the supermarket when everybody's complaining about winter, particularly when it's stretching into April. And the things that people liked and disliked about wintertime, again, Marquette's very snowy climate, and so there's lots of snow removal involved almost daily sometimes. Winter's too long, too much snow. But what does this really all mean, and this really gets to the point of all this, is that if we project a negative perception about our climate to the outside, certainly it makes it difficult to sell our community to new business and industry, to attract medical personnel, doctors, and so forth, other professionals. I'm with a design firm in Alaska. It's a challenge to get people to come to Alaska. When I worked in northern Michigan and was CEO of a design firm there, it was very difficult to attract architects and engineers and so forth. And sometimes, often you had to find jobs for two people because, it was a family that you're going to be relocating. And that often presented a challenge as well. But again, the perception that it's cold and snowy there all the time doesn't really help. So I think that addressing winter in your community planning, in your policies and so forth, can help reverse these negative attitudes that seem to pervade in our culture. Improve citizen attitudes, and again, I think there's a real connection to economic development as well. We really need to project a positive outlook on our community, positive attitude, and people just feel better about their town. So there's actually a place called Hell, Michigan. I have no idea how it got that name. But we know what the challenges are for in wintertime in our communities. We heard today about the communities that got the grants trying to overcome those challenges for mobility. But we know that there's lots of positive things, and these are the things that we really need to emphasize in order to make ourselves into a good winter city. I really love this quote, and George Paul would know the gentleman who made this statement, but Kiruna, Sweden, 250 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. So some things we can do to make winter better, I think, is really focus on children. In fact, yesterday I was in the airport in Vancouver. I don't know how many people saw this article. It was in the Vancouver Sun that basically the design of our cities has made our children obese and so forth. And, we heard that. I know that's what this program is all about, is to get people more active. And I think we can start with our children, get them more active, get them to stay where they're happy with the winter climate. Really focusing on making winter fun for them, making it possible for them to get outside and enjoy the wintertime. Some other things we can do, certainly when we do our site planning for public and private facilities, is really focus on how the buildings are oriented, making sure that we can get sunlight to them, that we are concerned about how pedestrians access the building. My mother is elderly, and she told me once that and she loves to go to church on Sunday, but she'd get there, the streets would be fine, parking lot would be solid ice, and so she'd turn around and go home. It's really unfortunate. Something that certainly a church could do to overcome that would be to have like valet parking for people. Small little intervention, get some people to volunteer to help people, park their cars for them, let them get out at the door, and then go and get the car for them after church service is done. Providing handrails, particularly where there's sloped areas. Looks like you have a little bit of that going on in this city, where you have some elevation change and so forth. Making sure that the snow doesn't shed on pedestrians. I noted the downtown has covered walkway, which a number of towns have done, but I also noticed it has sloped metal roof, and immediately I thought, what happens when you get a load of snow on there? Does it fall off on the sidewalk?